Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Between Sundays. Super excited that all of you are here with us in our virtual living space. Super excited about tonight and excited about all the great things that are taking place. I hope that your actual Thursday has been going well, and this is our opportunity to get together and I want to welcome you to our virtual couch where we are going to have some good conversation. Between Sundays is our opportunity, our space for real talk because life can get really loud after these sermons. And so we're here to talk about some of the things that dive close to home and create that space for all of us to be together. I want you to go ahead, if you have not already done so, go ahead and share with a friend. Tell them that we're on. Tell them that it's time for them to come and just take off the cares of the week, take off the cares of the day, and join us in this space. I'm super excited about the topic that we're going to have on tonight, and even more excited about our guests. And as you're coming in, whether you are watching on YouTube or Facebook Live, come on in the comments and say hello. We want to be able to speak to you on tonight. I see we've got some folks that are here in the building. So, hey, T Wade, it's so good to see you on tonight. All right. Well, I am not going to make this any longer than it needs to be because I think we're going to have some really good conversation. I'm excited about our topic on tonight. One of the things that is so important in my life is making sure that there is a good balance between not just spiritual health and not just physical health, but also mental health. And so tonight we've got one of my favorites that is going to be joining us on tonight. We're going to have as our special guest Dr. LaShonda Lennon, therapist, life coach, trainer, mom extraordinaire, just hostess with the mostest, all of those great things. So super excited to have her with us on tonight. And we're going to be talking around the topic of boundaries aren't betrayal. Boundaries aren't betrayal. How many of you have probably been in circumstances where you've had to set boundaries, and a result of setting those boundaries, there are people that felt like it was betrayal? And so tonight we really want to talk about the fact that boundaries aren't a sign of betrayal, but they're actually a sign that you are taking care of yourself. And she's going to go more into it. Again, as you're coming in, share with a friend. So good to see you all this evening. Let me go ahead and bring up my girl, my pal, Dr. LaShonda Lennon. Welcome to our virtual couch on Between
Yes, girl.
Sundays. Super excited to
Yes,
have you here,
girl.
sis.
Yes. Hey, girl. Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I am doing well. This
Good.
Thursday has been being
A
a Thursday.
Thursday.
Oh yeah. The week has been weeking. Life has been lifing, but all is well. We
Yeah.
are here. How about for you?
It has been a great day. I really can't complain. I only had a few clients today, and I did all kind of mom things, and so it was a great day.
That's good. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for being with us on tonight for us to have just this good, wholesome, feel good conversation. I know last week we had one of my close friends on, Pastor Alfred Hart, and we
Yes,
started off
honey.
the story of how we met. And since you are here as a second person warming up our couch, before we get into our topic on tonight, I love a good origin story. That's why I like
Okay.
Marvel. I would
Yes.
love you to share a little bit about our origin story. So, do you want to tell the folks how we met?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's see. Has it been like 20 years? I feel like it's been like, granted,
It
you're
has
still
been.
young, like, us
Yeah.
40-year-olds. Um,
It's been
I remember
20
you said
years. Oh
you
my gosh.
it's right. You said that to your friend last week, and I was like, "Oh, not for us 40-year-olds in the room. 40 plus is in the room." Okay. Um, you and I met at Columbia College, and even when we have been on other sides of the 11 states you have resided in, 11 places you've resided in, I have always like silently stalked you because at the end of the day, you have always been a spiritual encourager for me. And so, even when we were not close in cities, right? Like we have always had at least some type of connection. And so, our connection is Columbia College. We are C squared ladies. And yes, I'm slightly older, just a little bit.
But let me tell you, LaShonda has always been someone, you all, in my life who has been so consistent to her point. I remember we were both in periods of transition, and I remember she was like, "Girl, I'm gonna be in DC. What are you doing?" And so I love the fact
Yes,
that no matter where I found myself, she's
I'm a
always been
pop up.
one call away, or she's gonna pop up. And then with her, it's like no time has passed. And so I've
Listen,
been so blessed that we live now physically just a little bit closer to one another. And so that's been good being able to share this part of the journey. And the other thing too is, and I want to continue to emphasize, you need friends that stay with you for the journey.
yes,
Everybody is not there for the
yes,
long haul. And
yes.
what I love is within our dynamic, Shonda has seen me uh, dance very provocatively on top of stuff. And she's also seen me yell from the rooftops, Jesus is Lord. I mean, we've had from the windows to the wall. It's been a great time that we have had. And you need some friends that know you before Christ, kind of during
Mm,
when you're transitioning,
mm,
after. Okay.
yes.
So I've loved that fact. And I also love that she's always, even before she had the titles from Education Pursuits, um, really focused on wholeness and wellness. And I remember just her setting boundaries. And this is where I want to start the conversation. When I was thinking about tonight, I was like, you know what? Shonda,
Tell my business. Tell my business.
no, I'm not going to tell all of it because then that means I would have to tell mine.
Okay, good, good,
So
good.
we won't do too much tonight. But one of the things that I always loved about Shonda is that she was so firm in setting boundaries because even when we were in college, and we were both resident assistants, that's how we first met. She was
Yes.
interviewing me for an RA position. And y'all, I was so broke as a joke. I was like, I need to be a RAA with the freshmen because I got free room and board
Meals, right?
and meals. And then they were like, no, you're going to be a RA. And I was like, who is responsible for me not being? And they were like, no, it's because the question you asked. And it was her. She set boundaries so well in how she managed the residents, and also in how she navigated her dating life while we were in college. And I always looked up to her. And that's real talk. I remember we even had Thanksgiving together. And so I want to know.
Yes, you remember Thanksgiving.
Yes, I do. I want to know from your perspective, because you seem to have always been good at setting boundaries. Has that been something that came natural to you, or did you learn that skill set over time?
Yeah. Okay, well, hold on. Before we get into serious conversation, you look good today. Got to give you a compliment with that. So if you look
Thank
good, I know
you.
you smell good. So perfume friend, question of the day, what
Okay.
perfume are you wearing? What perfume are you wearing? What are we
Ooh,
wearing?
this is good.
What,
This is good.
what do we smell like today? What do we smell like? We on the couch. We need
Today,
couch chat.
I think today I put on Dolce and Gabbana.
Okay.
Uh, but I can't remember what fragrance I have. I like to layer, so I like to mix. So I put
Layer it
that,
up.
but I have a dupe of Bitter Peach by Tom Ford, the oil. And so
Ooh,
I
okay.
based it with that. And
Mm-hmm.
then I put on my Dolce and Gabbana. And I think it's
Mm.
something like she's got to have it, you something like that.
Yes.
The
Okay,
Dolce.
okay, okay. So you was
Mhm.
just smelling good all day. Okay, so I love that.
Listen, baby, I'm engaged, but baby, I like for people to be like, she has entered the room, she has left the room. I want you to smell me coming and going. You know, that is a real
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
How about you?
Exactly. Exactly. Okay,
How
so
about
today was a light day. Today was just errands, two clients virtual, so nobody was smelling me except my man. So I had on a little vanilla today, and my daughter always tells me to layer because after you came to my house, she reminds me. So I had on a little vanilla and some type of layer and lotion, some cream you told me to pick up, and I did, and I smell good all day. Still smell good right now. Okay.
ladies? One of the boundaries, ladies, let me give you a tip.
Give
Make a
us tip.
boundary between you and funkiness. Okay. That's the first boundary that you need to
That's
set.
the
You
exactly.
and funkiness do not meet. And again, smell good for yourself. Like
Yes.
I like to give myself an oasis in the shower, and it's gonna have all of the fragrances, all of
All
the
of the fragrances.
yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
I
And
love
so while I love that. And so exactly, you're absolutely correct. Boundaries for yourself have to be established. So when I think about boundaries and kind of where I grew up and how I learned it, I can't even lie. I learned it from my mom because my mom used to lock the door, close the doors.
I
She used to
said
lock the
close the doors.
I said close the door. So she used to lock the door, right? And we would be like turning the knob like lady, why but that was a boundary that she essentially like non-verbally taught us that after work she had space that she needed for herself. And so we learned it, you know what I mean? And when we learned that moment, we were like, okay, hold on, all right, cool. So if she needs a minute to herself, this is how she's taking it. And then if we violate that, there will be a consequence or an expectation thereof, right? And so even as a young age, I didn't have a choice. Like I was just kind of taught that, oh, moms are human too, and this is an expectation. And so we just kind of followed up from that. And so I didn't have a choice. When you met me in college, I mean, I was dating, I was having my young time, my 20-year-old time. And so I had to learn pretty quickly about boundaries because if not, with a suite like we were in, with an awesome roommate and two ladies on the other side, you would get violated pretty quickly if you did not set some boundaries in college, right? So boundaries, I mean, as an RA, as a young person in college, you had to learn pretty quickly. So absolutely.
I love that.
What
I love
about you?
For me, I think I did not learn boundaries
Mhm.
until unfortunately I had some, but I don't think I realized the necessity of boundaries until my father passed away.
Okay.
When he passed, it was in that moment so many things that were happening to violate a space during one of the hardest times of me grieving, because I
Yeah.
wasn't just grieving his loss, but it was the
Yeah.
fact that I only had 3 years to really get to know him. And the moment that
Hmm.
I was to know him, he was gone. So people weren't respecting like my ability to grieve. And they weren't also
Absolutely.
respecting like you don't have access to his funds and you don't get to do
Yeah.
this and you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think I'll never forget it. It was the moment that we were at the funeral home and decisions were being made with regards to what was going to happen to his body. And in that moment, I had my godmother. I found my godmother, God rest her soul, Prophetess Dixon. And in that moment, she was like, "What do you want for yourself?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she really made it click for me about this is not about anybody else. And boundaries is figuring out what do you need for yourself and being okay with that and not
Yeah.
have to please everyone else. Because I come
Yeah.
from a strong line of people pleasers.
Look,
A
look,
strong line of
listen,
people
girl,
pleasers.
and it's contagious.
Listen,
I
listen.
mean, let's be realistic, right? Because essentially, like
Yeah.
it's something that's modeled, right? Especially as African American women, we are essentially kind of taught non-verbally to go with the flow and accept whatever.
Yeah.
And oh, you have a boundary. Oh no, you don't. Right. Oh, you have a feeling. Oh no, you don't. Right. It's kind of very much dismissed. And so in that moment where your godmother kind of validated the fact that you were grieving, duh, and not only were you grieving, but you also had a feeling in regards to his passing and what that looked like and how that felt and so on and so forth. Hey, that was a moment where not only were you heard, but you were validated in saying, hey, 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 if I don't like this, then guess what? here is the impact of that. And
Right.
the impact of that. Those are boundaries that can be set. And I think that oftentimes it's assumed that we just have to go with the flow and we don't have a right to have feelings about certain things. And no, you do. It's you is you. You is you. So it makes no sense for you not to have an opinion or a boundary about something. So I think you're absolutely right in that.
I
I'm
love that.
glad that someone acknowledged it though.
Listen, one thing about it, to be seen and to be heard is so
Mm,
powerful. And not only be seen and be heard for what you want to say, but also to be seen and heard about what you don't want to accept, I think is just
absolutely.
super, super dynamic. I'm curious to know from your time, just in your personhood, but also in the work that you do. I have found that oftentimes individuals of faith sometimes shudder at the thought, especially those that are old school, like, what do you mean therapy? What do you mean? Like, I remember someone saying to me, oh, you're still going to your therapist? Like, they feel like you only go when you have a disease mechanism and then you stop. And I was like, no, it's like my checkup. Like, I like to check in with my therapist
Yeah.
once a month, or if
Yeah.
something is in crisis, I might do it more than that. Why do you think setting boundaries in mental health triggers a lot of guilt, especially with people of faith?
The truth about the matter is, when we think about faith, right? Excuse me, and we think about just that idea of going to therapy. As like I was saying earlier, I got my Jesus in therapy shirt on. Um, we act like once we turn that page in the Bible and we pray, like everything's gonna go away, right? Like nothing else happens. We don't need no more processing. We don't need to practice. God has taught us tons of things, but He's also taught us that it's in the house, right? Like it's in the community. It's surrounded by us. He has also taught us that, hey, no different than I gave, Kathy the ability to be a physician or be a pastor. I gave her the ability to be a clinician so that she can help you to process some things. And that is not a sin. That is not of me. Okay, I can turn the Bible pages too, honey. So no different than any other person. I can walk you through some spiritual connections, some biblical connections, if that's what's necessary for you to make a boundary. The truth about the matter is, even in the Bible, they had boundaries.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
come on. Like I
yes.
was joking with my husband earlier today, and I was telling him, I said, even when I think about boundaries, right? Like I think about how jokingly, right? I said, even if God wanted to be like, okay, Adam and Eve, right? Like I told y'all not to touch that, right? Like He didn't punish them, but He definitely was like, I told y'all not to go over there. So here is what the consequences of this action is, right? And so He didn't set a rule; He just kind of set an expectation for His stuff, and he was like, hey, leave that alone. Can y'all please chill out? And when we violated that, right, as a people, here is what the impact of that is. Here's the ramifications. And so essentially, even biblically, there's tons of references of God and just spiritual leaders saying, here is what my boundary is. And when you violate that boundary, here is the impact of that, right? And so, no different than any other thing that we're doing in the world, right? If you're dating someone and you set a boundary, now let me be clear. Let me pause by saying there's a difference between a boundary and a rule. Okay,
Ooh,
there's
say
a
more
difference
about
between.
that.
Okay, so there's a difference between a boundary and a rule. You can have a rule, right? Like a rule is kind of like something that's set in stone, right? Like you got to stop at a stop sign. That's the rule. So the rule is if you don't stop at the stop sign, then what? What happens?
Get a ticket.
Maybe go fast enough, you might not. But anyway, you get a ticket. Yeah, you look up real quick. You might not, but
I had a
essentially,
flashback to college. Yeah, you might.
listen, honey. The way me and my Zuzu rodeo, honey, we used to tear Main Street. Me and my oil leaking Zuzu, we used to tear Main Street up, honey. Listen, okay, and I knock on wood. The way I thank God I didn't get a ticket until I was way out of college, cause honey, the way I used to drive through Columbia, it didn't make no sense. But anyways, so that's a rule, right? The rule is do not run the red light. But a boundary is more personal. A boundary is don't speak about my weight.
Yeah, please don't
So
speak my mind. I need that boundary right now.
I need that boundary. And what happens is if you speak about my weight when I've asked you to not, right? Then this is what it looks like. This is how I have to now respond after you've spoken about my weight and I've already asked you not to, right? Like I've kind of said it informally. I've kind of like joked about it. Me and my therapist practice on what to say when you said it. And when you said it, now I have to act on the thing that I said I was going to do. And I said, when Nene Lee said, I said what
What
I
you
said.
said. Hmm.
I said what I said. And so, that's the difference between a rule and a boundary. Both are needed in all relationships, right? Both spiritual, both, secular. We need boundaries and rules. But at the end of the day, when it comes to a boundary crossing, when you violate a person's personal boundary, guess who's getting hurt?
Yes. I think what you're hitting on there is so powerful. And this is just about to spiral into such a good, even further juicy dialogue. I think sometimes, and I want to know your thoughts, it's hard for people with boundaries because the accountability is not so much the other person. It's more self accountability to say, if the person violates
Hmm.
what I ask them not to, do I have enough integrity within myself? And do I value myself enough to
Hmm.
hold them to the consequence that I said was going to happen if they violate that boundary? And I think, at least for me, if I'm transparent, and again, this is the stuff that we don't talk about on Sunday morning. We talk about, hey, the blessings of God, this, but I've rarely heard sermons that really dive into boundaries is not just putting up a fence for other people. It's really about how do you demonstrate a measure of care for yourself, and how do you exercise a muscle of having integrity with your own word. Like, because your body listens. I like to tell
Yeah.
people, like, every part of your body has ears.
Keeps a score. It
It
keeps a
does.
score.
It keeps a
Hmm.
score. And so every time I say this is a boundary and I allow someone to violate it, my body is taking note. My soul is taking note that I'm not integral to my own word. And so for me, that is just like so important, because a lot of people have hard times keeping boundaries because they have a hard time doing what they say they're going to do in a lot of different areas
Hmm.
of their life, you know?
Or or even to even add on to that, imagine being so holy, so churchy, that you believe holding someone accountable for a boundary is against God.
Ooh,
Come on now, like
that's
let's be
so
real.
good. That's
Let,
real.
let's be real. Some
Very real.
people will, and I remember this. This is. I had a time where I was at a different church, right? And in my church family is watching this, not this church, it's a different church, different church. I was at a different church, and I would always sit in the top pew because I had a small child at the time, and I was not mirth at the time, so I was a little shame, there was, I was a little sort of, I was sitting in the pew with my little baby, and she was little at the time, and she liked to walk around and things like that, and at the particular day, she would take her bowls out, right? And I remember telling this lady, I was like, oh, she really likes to take the bowls out like about mid service, right? This is the thing she would do to distract her, right? And I didn't mind because for me, that means she was being quiet. I get to take my little notes in church. So, anyways, long story short, every Sunday, this lady would come and chastise me about me not taking her to children's church or me allowing her to take her bowls out. Every Sunday, girl, she would give me a hard time. And then the other half was, honey, I was thick after having that baby. You know what I'm saying? I was thick, thick. So she would bring me a little prayer cloth. Now, mind you, I was already wearing the dress over my knees. So, honey, she didn't like the fact that my ankles were showing. So she would bring me a whole prayer cloth, and she would come and she would put the little click the bobs back in my daughter's hair. Every Sunday, I let this go on, and I would say to her, silently, "Oh yes, ma'am." I would do this little meek thing. "Oh yes, ma'am." Yes, ma'am. And every Sunday, I would tussle over it. It would make me not want to come to church because, and oh man, y'all, the service used to be fire. But it would make me not want to come to church because I would tell this lady who was just a beautiful person, right, a kind person, she would violate me every Sunday, and I'm sitting here like, if I say this, God gonna be like, I'm disrespecting this church mother. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I would be every Sunday she would do this every single Sunday, and y'all, no lie, no lie. Finally, it probably had went on for months before I finally said, "She want to take the bowls out. Can you please?" Like at this point, like I had already quietly said, "Can you stop?" And I snipped at her, so she was like taken back, and she was just like, "Oh," she kind of like, "Oh," like you know, old church.
Like, how
Oh,
dare you? Oh,
the audacity, right? And so I was so ashamed that I had stood up for myself
ooh,
that it made me like not go to church for a while. Like I started going to a whole nother church because I was so embarrassed by sticking up for myself when I had like quietly stood up for myself, but I didn't I I was just embarrassed, if that makes sense, right? So,
mm,
like, the reason why I give that example is because sometimes we really have this level of guilt whenever we stand up for ourselves or we advocate for ourselves or we defend our boundary when we really shouldn't, right? Like, that was something so small that I could have easily, like, pulled it to the side at the end of church, but I was so embarrassed to, like, be out of God's like light or whatever I had,
mm.
envisioned myself doing if I had just told her, listen, this all I and listen, honey, I was on a budget. You know what I'm saying?
Listen,
That was that was the big B, okay? And so I didn't have nothing else to wear to church. So whatever I was wearing was whatever I had. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, one, you shunning what I got on. Then you shunning my child. And it took a lot to get me in a 1 year old or a 6 month old or whatever to church. So I felt so embarrassed by this
wow.
interaction that it really took me out of a place that I was so comfortable and I was happy in. So in those moments where we are shunned or we embarrassed, right, like by that like biblical, if you do this, then you're not a Christian kind of thing. It's like we have to be reminded that yeah, in those moments you do need a therapist. You do need a friend to practice. You do need a confidant. You do need a Yolanda to be like, hey girl, help me to figure out how to tell Miss Mary, don't take my child bulls out of her hair
Exactly.
because
And stop trying to wrap me in a sheet. Like, leave me
girl,
alone.
listen, and listen, every Sunday she would
Oh my gosh. Let me tell you, one of the things that I think you said that is so pivotal is sometimes we have guilt, particularly people of faith, of
Mhm.
any faith, but I'm speaking of my faith, which is Christian. There's a lot of guilt sometimes around setting boundaries, even with people in the church and concerning
Yeah.
things for the church. I remember I grew up just like I literally tell people, I think I'm the only non preacher's child that was in church just as much as the preacher's children. I mean, my mother had me in there 6 out of the 7 days.
Wednesday, Thursday, volunteer
Oh,
on
no,
Saturday, fight
everything.
on
Like,
Sunday.
and to the point, my dad started becoming like the janitor and was over the United Methodist. Like any reason to be at the church,
We was there.
we were there, like literally all of the time. I went to school, I went to church. That's all I did, and some activities. But I remember when growing up like that, always serving in the church, I had major guilt about setting boundaries with the church about what I would do and what I would not do, and that I didn't have to serve my way into heaven.
Into heaven.
And so I think a lot of times, and I really want to share this like seriously because there are a lot of people, especially in singleness. I want to pause down this track right now. For
Run.
me, serving in church at a certain season when I was single, because I was trying to maintain um just my body and my
Yep.
purity and abstain, that
Yep.
was good for me because I'm like, you know what? Let me stay busy here so that I'm not busy
Yes.
someplace else. Okay. I want to stay busy so I ain't getting busy. Okay. And so
That part.
for me, that was good. But it got to a point where it started to feel like, and I know people that are in church contexts where it's like they will forsake everything in their life in the name of serving the church.
Yep.
And that is a place where you have to evaluate. I'm not going to sit here and say whether if you say God told you, that's where I'm not going to argue with you. I ain't got time for that. If you say the Lord say, that's where you're allowed to step out. Have at
Yep.
it. But
Have
I
at it.
do think that we have to have some real dialogue that even when we think about the bookends of Sunday to Sunday, we have to sometimes set boundaries too to say, you know what? The order is God, my spouse, if I'm married, then my children, and then Somewhere in that mix, I want y'all to hear me. Somewhere in that mix is the church. And it does not mean that you don't have moments where you may make a sacrifice here so that you can do the work of ministry. But your life should not be organized in such a way that your family, your spouse especially, pays the cost over
Yep.
and over again because you're over inundated with everything in the church. And that is a boundary I really feel like sometimes we have to have for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And mind you now, a lot of us, especially us Southern folks, right? We went to church with our what? Our family. So let's
Mhm.
dig it. Let's pull the shovel off the shelf. What you think? You think your family don't deserve boundaries? You think your family don't deserve boundaries? Why? Why? Because they family? It's no different than the people at the church. Now, don't get me wrong, right? Like I know we try to be, put together, and we try to, like you say, we try to people please and all of those things. But let's call a spade a spade. Sometimes even family deserves boundaries.
Oftentimes,
Listen, I was
probably at
trying
the
to be nice.
time.
I
No,
was trying to be nice.
you be nice. I'm going to be very real. I
Come on.
think families deserve, you have to sometimes, I shouldn't say deserve, sometimes families require the most boundaries because they're so familiar with you.
Mhm.
They assume access to you. I'll give a perfect example, and I can give this one because I won't get in trouble for this one. Like, there's some other ones that might get in trouble. So I am not a phone person. Like I'm not
We
going to spend
know.
hours with you. Now, if I'm in like face to face, if we're doing
Yeah.
this,
Oh yeah, we doing it.
all of the energy. But when I'm on the phone, I'm like, and that's even when I was dating. I'm like, okay, like, all right, you taking me out or not? Because I'm not about to send a
Where
phone.
we going at?
We're like, what are we doing? Like, I do better when I see the person. But my family had a tradition where certain individuals were always calling each other every day and every night before they went to sleep. And that was their practice. And that is not Yolanda Arnitha Johnson, soon to be gathers, practice at all.
That part.
And so
Yep.
at one point, I started to feel bad because it was like, wait a minute, there was this expectation like, you should call, you should do this, especially when I had other people in my family that were doing certain things and their bond was showing in a certain way that mine's maybe wasn't showing in that same way. And I had to
Yep.
set the boundary to say, you know what? This is one area that I need to set the boundary. The other is just pulling up on no, no, no. We don't do the drive by. That's a big boundary for me. Like, no, don't just swing by. Call before you come. Because I would
But
have people that just be like, oh, I just was in the neighborhood. Okay.
no, you wasn't. No, you
Oh, okay.
wasn't.
Right around the block a few times.
No, you wasn't. No, you
I'm
was
in the
not.
neighborhood. Can I stay at your house? Wait a minute. You don't know
No,
what I got going on. Like, what is happening here?
no. And that's the thing, right? Like we become these spiritual people, right? And don't get me wrong, like I feel like there are things that God is telling, like you said, when God is telling you to do something, that's completely different than you allowing someone to literally negate a boundary that you have set for yourself, for your family, for your lifestyle. And the reason why that's different, the reason why that's extremely important is because when you're allowing someone to violate a boundary, when God has already told you to put that boundary in place to protect you, then what you think the hedge, how you gonna say God put a hedge around me every day and then you let somebody not step on the hedge? How you gonna let somebody step
Ooh.
over the hedge you and prayed over? No, I'm sorry, but this hedge, if I'm gonna say God protect me, this is the protection. Boundaries are protections from God. He is telling you, hey, guess what? This thing, Kathy, every time Kathy call you, Kathy and you get into some foolishness. Every time Ben hit you up, it's inappropriate, right? It's some fornicating going on. You might need to set a boundary that whenever y'all speak, it's in public, right? Those are boundaries. Those are boundaries that you're setting not just for your protection, but those are the things that you keep hearing. That's that guilt. That's when you hear God telling you to do something over and over again. That's what that looks like. And so in those moments where you are allowing someone to violate that, and then you wonder why you feel bad, baby, that's where that guilt is coming from. It's coming from that. That's betrayal. You betraying yourself. You
Yes,
betraying you. So don't let somebody else do the same thing.
I love that. I love
So
that.
yeah.
So talk to me. I want to pull on your expertise. Like, what are some maybe what I would call early warning signs that maybe boundaries are being crossed? What would you tell your clients? Like, this is how you know, because sometimes I knew what my boundary was, and sometimes
Mhm.
I didn't know it was a boundary, but I got a weird feeling. So, what are some of those clues or signals that maybe a boundary is being crossed?
Well, it just so happened that y'all kind of talked about it last week. That's why I was super excited about this week, right? Y'all, you and your friend talked about it a little bit last week when you talked about mutual respect, right? A boundary, even in his situation. Granted, I know he's not on the call, but the example that he gave last week was that he and his current wife knew that you were a friend to him, so
Mhm.
he and a boundary, right? Like, I'm guessing, right? I don't know her. A boundary that she essentially established was, if this is your friend, then I need to get to know her.
Mhm.
It wasn't just a rule, that was a personal thing that she set up because it established healthy communication and respect.
Yeah.
When respect and communication are impacted, that's when you know a boundary crossing has occurred, right? Someone has violated your own personal boundary. So, for example, if you notice, you know how people always talk about the red flags and green flags or whatever, right? If
Yes.
you're noticing that after you get off the phone with someone, you feel icky, or you feel unfulfilled, or you're doing something like that, people pleasing. When you're doing something, people pleasing is nothing but a boundary crossing. When you're doing something you know you don't want to do, and you still doing it, even though you don't want to go, or you don't want to be there, or you don't, and you know something is stirring it up inside of you and telling you don't do it, but you still do it. That icky feeling you feel, that's not pretend. That's literally that feeling of a boundary crossing. Other things like externally that you can notice is absolutely the person's response. If they have a level of expectation over your life, or if they have a level of expectation over the behavior that you're doing or things like that, they kind of demand that you do something even though you've already told them no. That's that red flag. That's the boundary crossing. You already know that that person is going to do something that is going to cross your boundary. So you need to set firm boundaries. And in that case, you need to set rules, right? So a boundary is like that level one kind of intervention. I would tell my clients, right? This is what you do in the beginning, right? You set the boundary. You say, hey, such and such, I don't like it when you do this. It makes me feel like this. And then if that continues to be violated and they continue to do things that make you feel uncomfortable, that make you feel not safe, that makes you feel like the communication is off. I love the example that you and your friend gave last week when you were like, um, talking about like just communication between one another, and you're like, oh, if you feel weird in a relationship and you're noticing that you're giving, 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 and the other person isn't getting, I mean, if the person isn't giving, and you set that boundary, like, hey, this is how I am, I've changed, whatever the case may be, and they're not respecting that. And guess what? That's a boundary crossing. So now at this point, I have to put a rule in place, and that rule may be, you don't get to call me. I have a friend, and I say friend, I have a person that at one point we were like tight, right? And then they crossed a boundary with me that I essentially had to put a rule in place that they have no access to me. Like, if I see you in the street, cool. I'm kind. I'm always gonna be kind. I'm always gonna be respectful. If you ask me for something and I need to do something, cool, no problem. But I had to set a firm rule because in that particular case, it disrespected me so bad that now it is no
Mhm.
longer a boundary crossing, right? Now at this point, like, now you bring a lush out, and I want to anyway. But now at this point, right? Like, even Jesus was like, hey, 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 what we finna do? Because this is not okay. And so, in those moments where you're noticing, disrespect, lack of communication, they're not validating your feelings, they're not respecting the things that you put in place. You've established some firm things for your life, and they're not respecting it. Just those simple four things. I tell people, set the boundaries. If they continue to cross it, go ahead and put some rules in place, because now at this point, this is about protection.
I love that. That is such good tips. You started off the conversation when You were saying that you learned boundaries from your mom, who set
Girl.
boundaries as simple as I'm locking the door, do not bother, do not bother me. And you also mentioned about how oftentimes, especially in certain communities or certain genders, will find themselves socially, I don't want to say all the time, but are
Yeah.
sometimes more prone to
Yeah.
um, having a lack of boundaries.
Yeah.
Talk to those, because you are a wife, you are an entrepreneur, you are a mother, you're a go-getter, you're all those things. As someone who wears multiple hats, as a person who wears the role of mom and wife and doctor and all that, how do you set boundaries for all those different spaces? Or what tips would you give somebody like me who's like, wait a minute, I'm barely figuring out how to set this up for myself and I'm about to get married? What would be some of the advice that you would give on how to start to establish those boundaries so you keep somewhat a sense of self even as you're
Yeah.
serving in all those roles?
Absolutely. Like no different than you kind of gave the example of earlier, right? Like there are times where if from a family standpoint, God is calling you to serve the Lord, right? And then you notice that, okay, I'm serving the Lord. I'm I'm being a servant to my spouse, right? Like in your future case, you're gonna be a bonus parent. I hate to ruin it for you, but if someone asks me, and I'm being dead serious, my job pays my bills, right? Like this is literally the godsend, right? Like like I know, right? That
Mhm.
God gave me this thing. So if I notice that there is something kind of interfering with my ability to do the task that I know for a fact that God has put in my life, listen, baby, my husband was states away. So I know he gave me that man right there. Okay. So if there is something that's gonna be out of order, oh, it won't be that man. Because God, my man. So if anything comes in between God, my man, it won't. Mm-mm. It won't. I don't care what I have to say no to because it's gonna go God, my man. Boop, boop, boop. You're gonna fall right into what a no immediately. And so I tell people if there is a time where you know for a fact that God is telling you to do something in order, please listen. Don't reap a consequence on account of the fact that you're trying to bump some stuff up. No, at the end of the day, do what you need to do, bump them stuff down, or say no. No is a complete sentence in every single language,
Ooh.
right? Like tell me I'm wrong. No,
You're
need,
not.
no, nada.
You're not. But here's the other thing. I think sometimes we have to set boundaries and not explaining our no. Because while
That
we
part.
say and quote that no is a complete sentence, oftentimes people feel as though they have to explain their no.
Yes.
And that is a
Right.
new boundary, very transparently, that I'm learning, that I can just say no.
No.
And my
But
therapist and I have been working on it, not to explain behind my no, but just to say,
no,
Yolanda, do you want to come? No.
no.
But my natural tendency is to say,
But I
no,
can't
because
come
I
because I
have
got a work schedule
this
and I
and
got to
I feel so bad. When the
nope.
truth is, I don't feel bad. I want to stay home and watch Found. I want to stay home and meal prep so I can watch Real Housewives later on that evening. The answer is no. And
That's
so
it.
I think that is another type of boundaries of how you
Yeah.
set it with people. But let's talk about this last one before we prepare to
Well,
get
hold on. Well, I know we're about to prepare to get out of here, but this the other thing. I will also say, right? Um, and I love the fact that somebody put this in the chat. It says, obedience is better than sacrifice. Let me tell you, the truth about the matter is, it really takes practice. Like I'm not even gonna lie to you. It takes practice. That's the reason why I tell people all the time, yes, therapy is necessary. Yes, having true companions and friends around you, that's necessary. Teaching boundaries is a love language for me almost, because it is one of those things that I had to learn at an early age, and I'm teaching my children, right? Like I'm teaching those around me, because essentially when you don't prioritize the things that you're supposed to be doing, you will be so depleted, that when you go to lay down at night, you can't figure out, why am I exhausted? Why am I tired? Why am I fatigued? Why am I stressed out? You're like, oh my God, my plate is full. No, it's not. You let people violate you for 24 hours, right? Like you let people violate your boundaries for 24 hours and you wonder why you're tired. Girl, you tired
Woo!
because you let people run over you. That's why you're tired.
Wow.
That's why you're tired. So when I think about that and I think about, when we talk about the word betrayal, how does it feel to betray ourselves to not do the things that we are called to do? If we were told to do this, and this, and then we try to shove two or three more things in because they need me, or they called me, or they told me they was popping by. So now I'm trying to shove you in the midst of what I was told to do. I can't. So the answer has to be no because I had already told you don't pop out my house. Don't do that because I can't handle anything else. And so essentially it does take practice. It does absolutely take, continuous ongoing. Every year I'm learning something new, right? Even as a parent, like I love the example that you gave. You like I'm walking into a season of being a mom and being, a wife and girl, multiple streams of businesses. Girl, you got so many businesses, child. You got 20 lines and 30 emails, right? So in those moments, you're naturally having to say, I know I have all these things to do, but I don't have a choice. If I want to keep my sanity, I
Yeah.
have to put some boundaries in place so that I can be a good person for me. I can be a good person for God, and I can be a good person for my man, my man, my man. I'll say, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be nice, but you know what I'm you know, that's the truth about the matter. And so that's why I say, I understand that it's a hard thing, and I know that it's a sensitive subject for Christians because they believe that putting boundaries in place is such a guilty thing. It's selfish. No, it's not. It's not selfish. You can't, in one breath, say that God made me this, this awesome person, and then in the same breath, like I'm trash. Clearly, because you're allowing people to run over you. So it can't be
Woo!
both in the same sentence. You know what I'm saying? It can't be both.
I love
So,
that.
but I'll
I
get off my
s-
tangent.
no, 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 no. I think it was not a tangent. I think it's so necessary. And it reminds me when you said that, I think we take the word selfish so far out of context. It is care to set boundaries. It is
Absolutely.
selfish to see someone suffering and you have the means to help them and you don't.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
selfish. But for you to
That's
say,
selfish.
I need a minute, that's care. And we see
That's care.
examples even in scriptures with Jesus when it was like, you know what, I've just done with the miracle marathon. They look around, where is he? Chuck the deuces. He done went somewhere by himself. That is a level of care. Like, wait a minute, I need my own personal time to charge. And I want us to walk away from this time on the couch this week to really think about the goal with a boundary is to really establish a level of care. And before Shonda and I got on here, one of the things that we did was open up in prayer. And even as I was praying, I really heard in my spirit, the Holy Spirit reminded me, he was like, the Lord even established boundaries with how far the sun could go, how far the
Mm-hmm.
moon could go, how far the sea could go, how far the mountain could be. And I think if God weaved boundaries in the tapestry of how the earth is even created, or the galaxy for that matter, who are we that we're created in this image make decisions not to set boundaries? If he realized everything needs boundaries, we need to realize that things need boundaries too. Like, it's a part of universal order. And I really think that that's really important. I want to ask you this one question
What you about to say?
before, before you go.
All right, before I got.
And before we wrap up, I want to do a couple of closeout things, but I do have this one question about
Okay.
boundaries. Is it
Yes.
still a boundary when I come to your house for a social gathering that you're hosting to not come to certain parameters of your kitchen? Y'all,
Y'all, give the context. Give the context.
y'all,
So I have an
so
island. I got an island in I have an open layout in my house, right? And there's an island in my like kitchen area. And she is not lying, y'all. I when I have so much, people always think that like I am like this extrovert and I'm all like, yes, da, da, da. But I literally have this like phobia of people like not being happy or not being okay or whatever. And so I'm always like trying to do this thing. Shut up, Charles. He was at my house cracking up. He was like, I'm going to the garage. I'm gonna get away from y'all crazy people. But essentially, I I was so just nervous about people being safe and okay and da 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 da, and I'm such a host that I was like in this like zone in this protected space. And so I was behind the island, y'all. This is the visual. This is me doing the island. So the island is here, and I'm standing behind the island. And when people would like try to come over for like ice or anything, I'm like, no, give me your cup, I'll make it for you. No, oh, you need cocoa, I'm gonna do it for you. Oh, you need something to eat, I'll make the plate. Like I would not let people do anything. And I'm like, dude, it's a casual event. You're not a waitress. Get from behind the counter. And this nut gonna talk about, well, I'm coming behind the counter. And then my other friend, I'm coming behind the counter, Shawan. I'm coming behind the counter. And I'm like melting because I don't know how to like allow people in this space. And y'all, they ate me up that night. They ate me up.
Yeah.
But I do have that boundary. Thank
Better.
you.
I have to do better about respecting that boundary. You all, if you ask me to come to your house, I'm gonna be in your
You
personal
lying.
I'm going to be in your personal space. So, and if you set the boundary, I'm crossing it. I still got a little, it's a teach. It ain't a lot, but a little rebel in me. And so the moment she was like, do not come in my kitchen. And no, I was like, oh, yes, I have to. I must proceed. But no,
They
I'm
ate me up. They
super
ate me up.
excited. I'm super excited. You all, I want, while we have Dr. Lennon here, I tell everybody if you go and get everything checked on from the neck down, why not do that from the neck up? And you need to do that. And so I'm going to put on the screen very, very quickly. Dr. Lennon is here. As you all can see, she is not your, so tell me, Joe, what were you thinking today? She's not going to be that type of therapist. She is going to keep it real with you. She's going to keep it safe. It's a great environment for Christians. And it's also, even if it's not therapy, if you need a life coach, baby, I have never dated somebody with children. Mother, okay? Mother has walked me through. I want you to scan this QR code while I'm telling you this story. I remember I'll tell my own business, but not too much. I called her like on level 39 about something. And I'll put it back up here again at the end. And I was like, I don't understand. And I said, and I won't be disrespected and da 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 da. Okay. We are in a great space now. I love my extended bonus family. It is wonderful. But I remember I was just full of self and I was just like, I'm not doing this and I'm not gonna be. And she was like, oh no, you are gonna be disrespected. And you're
Mm-hmm,
gonna like
mm-hmm,
it, and it's gonna be
mm-hmm.
fine. And you're not gonna have an opinion. And it's not so I'm telling you, even if you don't necessarily need a new therapist, but you need somebody that's going to give you that push from a life coach perspective. I'm going to throw it back up here again. Dr. LaShonda Lennon is your person. I'm super excited about everything that is happening at the creative healing. Let me tell y'all, you're going to get you some Jesus, you're going to get some realness, and you're going to get some Charleston zhuzh, okay? It is not until you have dealt with somebody from the low country that will go from prim and proper to speaking a little geechee and telling you what it is, okay? And so
Listen, we're gonna tell you.
listen, for sure, for sure. I'm telling you, between Charleston and New Orleans, I mean, there's a different level of
Passion.
that song, okay, a little zhuzh, okay. And so I really want to encourage you to check out the creative healing. We want to get you there, and so we'll put the link up at the end. Dr. Lennon, LaShonda, my friend, Lasha, I am
Luscious.
so happy that you are here, and thank you so much for spending some time with us on this Thursday evening.
Yes. Let me close out by saying these two things. Well, three things. Okay. One, yes, I always tell people, even if you don't need a clinician. I am licensed and certified in a lot of different things from North Carolina, South Carolina, and I have tons of experience. And even at my practice, I partner with an amazing clinician as well as a nutritionist. And so, even if those are some areas that you are looking towards needing services, please contact me. I'll be glad to refer you in all of those areas. And then the other thing that I do want to plug out there, because I know I think my friend Shawan's on. Um, my friend Shawan is on. She's an amazing massage therapist, and she actually partners with me. Honey, she will massage your back down, honey. I tell people all the time, believe it or not, mind, body, soul all goes together. I'm gonna pray with you. I'm gonna connect you with someone to massage, get your gut right, okay, and get your mind right. It all goes together, okay, in the kingdom of God. And then the last thing is, I do want to note that people, if you don't hear nothing else that we say, I know we were chilling, we were joking, we was kiki king, go go go. Here two things. There is a difference between a rule and a boundary. If you hear nothing else that we say today, baby, please remember a boundary is personal. A boundary is personal. A rule is permanent, right? Like a rule is like, this is firm. This is exactly what it is. And a boundary is a little bit more personal. So please set personal boundaries for your life, because no different than Jesus did, you have to set them for yourself so that you can protect you. Put a hedge around me every day. Go ahead.
Come on. Woo. Okay.
It was great. Thank you, Yolanda. As always, I'm so grateful for you loving on us in momentum and praying with us, praying for us. And if you have not joined our momentum, I'm just a little plug. If you have not joined our momentum ministry on Facebook, please join us. Like, subscribe, and of course, comment, because we're gonna read the comments. We love feedback. Please do that. And even if you enjoyed tonight, please share, because yeah, we need more people to join our ministry. But then more importantly, I got a business I'm trying to run, right, in this economy. No, I'm just kidding. But
No,
for
that's a
real,
real thing.
no, for real. I got bills to pay. And so if nothing else, please like, share. There's a couple great things coming up in momentum that Yolanda's gonna share. I'm so excited.
So we want to let all of the mothers know. I mean, mothers by birth, godmothers, bonus moms. We are having Saturday, May the 10th, a virtual giveaway. And y'all, I know what's coming in that giveaway. Please get on that live. We've got two opportunities. And let me tell you, in this economy, think about it, it's going to be a blessing to you. And so we want the mothers to join. Super excited about that. And then we also have so many opportunities, like LaShonda said, get connected to Momentum Ministries. It's not your normal churchy thing. It is really about creating community and healthy spaces so that you have a group to do life with outside of your Sunday morning services. And we're super excited about that. We will see you all back here next Thursday on our virtual couch. We've got two amazing people. We got a duo. It's going to be a trio on here next week. We're going to be talking about your favorite, maybe not so favorite subject, about relationships. Okay. And so we're going to be diving in a little bit into dating. And is it really pee in the pool, or you just don't know how to swim in the ocean? So we're going to be talking about all of those things. We will see you all back here next Thursday. And don't forget, refer a friend. We love referrals. Go check out the Creative Healing. We will have the link in the bio, and we will go from there. Love you all, and we hope that you all have a super duper great night. Bye.